Greetings, everybody. I hope this loud background music that's going on in my neighborhood does not end up being in the background and then getting this video taken down because the music is just so loud and I don't have a soundproof room to do my lives in. So, unfortunately, it's just there in the background. I can hear it blaring. As a matter of fact, I need to get some noise canceling headphones or something to do my live so that I can block it out myself. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. There's a topic at hand. I see that the fandom has had somewhat mixed reactions to Wes Bergmann's return to television. I can't remember the exact timeline of which was released first, but Wes was on the Challenge World Championships and the Challenge All Stars 3, which both aired around the same time. I want to say that if I remember correctly, World Championships was aired first and All Star 3s was aired after that. And I'm not sure which one was actually filmed first, but the point of the matter is there's a few things that I want to say about this. Wes, I have gotten to know over the past 3 years, and the way I got to know him was through his Patreon channel. The Wes that I saw on TV and the Wes that I followed on his social media platforms, very different Wes than the one that I have experienced on Patreon. And I'm not saying that none of what you see on his Twitter or none of what you see on what he says on these shows and everything is the real him, but there's an aspect of him that plays into being a villain for television. He's not one of those people that's like, why is my edit the way it is? He goes into these shows with intention. He actually spoke on his Patreon before about planning out things that he was going to say in the confessionals and things that he was going to do to make TV moments. Like, he'll study the show and he'll figure out strategies, gameplay, and things to say. He'll study his opponents. He's very, very calculated. So somebody made a comment. Hi, Ma and Cass. Somebody made a comment on Twitter that he responded to, that he retweeted, where they were essentially saying, Wes says that he's retiring from the challenge to be there with his baby daughter. And then also Wes goes on 3 shows back to back to back, right? So he's been on House of Villains season 2, where he made a huge splash. He's on The Traitors 2, which is also, I mean, thus far, there's only 3 episodes released, but him being on Traitors 2 has been a huge splash because of the fact that he wasn't in the official cast list that was released. So him being there was a surprise that people have been excited about. And then he's on America's Worst Cooks. And then he claims that there is a 4th show that he's going to be on. I don't know what that 4th show might be, but people have speculated. I am not sure, but I have a reason behind saying all of this. Anybody who has followed Wes's Patreon for any amount of time knows that his family is actually very important to him. And when I say family, I mean his chosen family, as in his wife, now his daughter, and also his dog, Penny. And when I first started following his Patreon was when I had nothing to do. That's the only reason why I followed it in the first place or paid for a subscription, because it was 2020 and I was like, I'm losing my mind in my home. So I need content, things that I can watch or listen to in order to keep my mind from going crazy. So that's how I first knew who his wife Amanda was. I didn't know about anything about Amanda prior to subscribing to his Patreon. And his wife was in several of his videos at that time, his recap and his breakdown videos. He talked about how he would make it a date night because his regular schedule was really busy and her regular schedule is really busy, even though she does different things than him. Like, he does entrepreneurial things, but she has I can't remember exactly what job she does, but I think that he said she has a master's degree. And I want to say that she might do something in the medical fields. So both of their lives are quite busy. So they would come together and watch reality TV together. And she's more of a reality TV fan than he is, as a matter of fact. She watches all the shows. She watches the dating shows. She watches the competition shows. She watches all these different reality shows. And he's mostly a challenge guy, but they would sit down and they would watch the challenge together, and then they would do breakdowns together and recaps together and everything like that. And the thing is, excuse me, sometimes within those recaps, he would say on the Patreon that he's going to start a firestorm with his comments on Twitter or his comments on Instagram. He'll be like, I'm going to engage with Josh, or I'm going to make this comment about Corey, or I'm going to say this thing to Anissa. And he's a troll. So he would actually tell the Patreons that he was going to say whatever it is that he was going to say. Then he would post it, and then he would welcome the firestorm that comes from it. Like, challengers get pissed off about his Patreon because they either, maybe the fans send it to them, or they hear about it, or maybe some of them even secretly subscribe to it. I don't know. But is Cliff on the show? On what show? On Traders? No. So basically, to the person who was saying Wes is leaving his wife and or his daughter, mainly. I mean, I've heard people say both. He's leaving his wife and his daughter to go on these shows, but then he says that he can't go on the challenge. Well, there's a couple of explanations that he himself has made for those things. One is that he says that when he goes to the challenge, it's important for him to win. Some people are just trying to be there. They're just trying to get there, be there, get the TV time and the airtime. You think about it, he went on TV as a teenager and he's now 40. So he has spent more than half of his life being a public figure of some sorts. So the TV part and the exposure part is not what he needs, nor is the money really what he needs. Not saying that the money doesn't benefit him, but he doesn't go on it for the money. He's talked about that before, where he said early on in his career, he was doing things for the money. And now he used like winnings that he got from the show to fund his business and everything like that. But anyways, before he went on the challenge World Championships, I want to say it was World Championships. If it was All Stars 3, forgive me. They were putting out shows in back to back to back to back to back. So I can't really remember the exact timeline of it. But I did a second interview with him during that time period. And I asked him what he has to say to people who are like, how are you leaving your pregnant wife behind? Because his wife was pregnant at the time, to do this show. It's incredibly irresponsible. So his response to me at that time was, he was like, between my business endeavors and between family time and my child who is not yet born, I've realized that I'm not going to be able to do one of my favorite hobbies, which is the challenge, for a very long time, if not forever. So he's like, this is my last opportunity to it could be my last or one of my last opportunities. And I know that he spoke to his wife, and she obviously had to give him the okay. They've been together, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. They've been together they've been married a long time. And she gave him the okay because I think that it's hard for any spouse, to be home while their husband or wife or partner goes off for X amount of months to film a television show. But I think that, especially because in Wes's case and some of these people's case, they met during a time when the person was already on those shows and they already know that that's a part of their lifestyle. And let's be real, like, we look at these people as these larger than life figures, but they're people at the end of the day, and it's something that he enjoys. He probably enjoys it more than all the other things that he does with his life, because the other things are probably a lot more serious than going on and filming the television show. So she gave him the okay, I'm assuming. Um, and so he went on the show. And then afterwards, he has not been on the challenge since. But then he's been on America's Worst Chefs, Worst Cooks. I mean, he's been on House of Villains, and now he's on The Traitors. Um, this is not based on me asking him, but this is just based on me putting together numerous things, videos that I've watched and things that he said to me over the years. He said that when he goes on the challenge, he spends 6 months, if he can, training for the challenge, because the challenge finales are really hard. So he doesn't want to go in there in, halfway decent shape, knowing that he's going to have to be very strong with his endurance, with his swimming, with his running, with everything. He goes there to win, basically. So it takes him a long time to train. Also, he said that the filming time is really long. Like, it could be 3 months if you're the winner. And then in addition to that 3 months, there's also a time period where you're sequestered. Like, you got to fly over there, you got to be in the hotel. There's time before they even start filming that you have to be there. So it could be more like 4 months or so. And then he said they give you very short notice. Like, they give you sometimes weeks notice, sometimes a month notice. So it's not a lot of time for somebody to plan and prepare. So I remember a specific Patreon episode where he was talking about which one of these shows was it? I want to say it was House of Villains. It was definitely House of Villains. So he was talking about House of Villains, and he was talking about how you don't have to be in shape to be on House of Villains, and he was just like, they tell you earlier, and it's a lesser amount of filming time, and I mean, you can see that they get to speak to their family or whatever on a regular basis. It doesn't seem like other shows like The Challenge or Big Brother, like especially Big Brother, even though he hasn't done it, but just using that as an example, like a Big Brother where there's very limited communication. Like, you have to be in the jury house before you get a back and forth communication at all. Or The Challenge where the communication is very limited. It seems like House of Villains is a pretty lax environment for the competitors. It's much shorter and it's much easier. I assume the same thing for America's Worst Cooks, and I also assume, well, I'm not too sure about The Traitors. I'm not terribly sure because The Traitors does usually span over the course of about 3 months or so, 4 months. But I also think that every day in that house is an episode. So it could, for all I know, it could be about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe like 3 weeks or so that the Traders actually films. So it's a lot shorter of a time that you have to actually be there. And in addition to being a shorter time, I think that they gave him more time to make his decision on whether he's going to be on there or not. So I think that those things factored in. And I think that he doesn't find that important to tell the fandom, because when I look at his responses to the fandom, he doesn't really ever try to explain himself, justify things. But if you actually see him talking without the villain filter that he puts on publicly, I know that he cares about his family. I know he cares about his wife. He cares about his daughter, and they all factor in to his decision making. So that's something that I've gotten to know of him over the past about 3 years. And yeah, that's really all I got. So thanks for joining. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified and when I drop some more great content. Thank you.